strategy. So the key thing is you have a vision, you have a strategy that you build from the ground up. You also then need to have a clarity.
Hello, I've got Maria Nordstrom with me again. Again, welcome back.
Thank you.
We've had lots of great discussions about how to drive a high-performance sales culture.
Yes.
And your content is brilliant. Thank you very much, Maria. I'd like to pull it together with a bit of a summary now. And could you just help me understand the key attributes of a high-performing culture, what we need to put in place? If I'm the leader, help me, coach me.
Okay. So, obviously we looked at the core framework through our discussions. I think the key thing is that you need to have a cohesive leadership team from across the organisation that sits down. You need to have a really clear vision.
Clear vision's vital, isn't it?
Clear vision is very, very vital.
And not something you put on the wall, but something everybody can believe in and understand and embrace.
Absolutely. And then with that, you start creating a strategy. The strategy needs to be built from the ground up. It needs to come from the market and the customers. You need to work through the offerings and the services that you can provide the organisation.
Your people are actually helping you pull that together.
Absolutely.
It's not your strategy pushed down on them.
You need to build it from the ground up. You need to have a vision at the highest level, but if you build it from the ground up, so you do it collaboratively, you have a buy-in of that strategy from day one.
Right.
3 is that you really need to have a really clear understanding on where the roles fit within the organisation. One of the key things as a leader is that you spend your life answering questions. How do I do that? Who do I speak to do that? In the context of an organisation, and one of the big things is, can I make a decision? Who makes a decision? And where do I need to go? So it's really truly understanding, one, what does a role fit on the decision-making, hierarchy, and 2 is, where does that role fit, in the context of what you're trying to deliver to the customer,
right,
as an example.
Yeah, which we had a good discussion on that
Absolutely.
earlier.
So that's another key thing that actually creates clarity. So the key thing is you have a vision, you have a strategy that you build from the ground up. You also then need to have a clarity. You really need to understand what your role
and the relationship of your role to all the other roles in the organisation and how you interrelate and get the work done.
Absolutely. Within that organisation. Number 3 is how you communicate, or number 4 is, I should say, how you communicate. That is not only how do we communicate, that is, between each other to be constructive and not accusational, which is quite easy. So it's actually always a constructive conversation. So that is the individual conversation, the group conversation, and the communication that comes from the leadership team. If you are very clear and you have a no blame approach in your communication, then you basically also create an environment where people are feeling comfortable to actually take more ownership themselves as well. That doesn't mean that people are allowed to actually make mistakes over and over and over again, but it's okay. So people will make mistakes sometimes. As long as
you should be encouraged to have a go, make a mistake, learn from it, and move on.
Exactly. So that's one other key thing. And the other thing is, is also that you actually have a very clear problem-solving process across the business.
Right. Okay. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that needs to be and then obviously the leadership.
And people are willing to raise the problems and have it addressed.
Absolutely.
Okay. Across all this discussion, and I love that, and it's a good summary, you haven't discussed systems at all. You haven't discussed your CRMs or whatever. What are your thoughts, and I know I'm diverting here, but what are your thoughts about the CRM system? A lot of people put CRM systems in to try and achieve everything you've just done, but it's got to be the other way around, doesn't it?
It needs to be the other way around. And the CRM, for instance, as a tool, the process and the CRM are support tools.
Yep.
You need to treat the CRM as a tool that is actually collecting all the information that is in context of what you want to do with the customer.
That's part of making it easy to do what we've been talking about doing.
Absolutely.
But if you're not doing what we're talking about doing, CRM's not going to solve the problem.
Absolutely not. Well, a lot of people implement Salesforce, for instance. Salesforce has its own sales process, that's built into the system, that you work with, that has all the staging, all the gates, the percentages. But if you don't really have a clear understanding of that as a sales leader and as a salesperson, that doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Because, the hygiene of the pipeline It's not always good, let's face
and
it.
the system's not going to solve that. It's your
absolutely.
culture that's going to solve that.
It's the culture that's going to show that. And I think one thing, having forecasted for many years, is that forecasting is an art form, but the art form in forecasting is actually not really understanding what the numbers that people give you, but it's understanding where in the pipeline or in the staging that particular deal is at. And that you can only get by experience and truly understanding sales.
And in this day and age, it's probably understanding where it's in the buyer's journey or the buyer's process that's really important.
I mean, if you're working with a corporate and you say, I'm going to get this contract on Friday and today is Wednesday, and you know that they need to have a board meeting to be able to sign that off because of the value of the actual deal you are working with them on, then that's not realistic, But some people may not necessarily have that experience. So that's really important in the context of using systems, that you need to have the culture, you need to be able to have the capability, you need to be able to have the dialogue and an honest dialogue. Having said, though, I mean, I've been in organisations when you're looking at forecasting, if you have that more open environment where people feel comfortable, they are less likely to over-forecast.
They're going to be under pressure, but they can't feel threatened.
No.
They've got to feel part of the organisation. I'm under pressure, but everybody's supporting me, and we're moving in towards a vision.
Having said that, though, performance management is always very key, because if people are not performing consistently over time, then there's obviously discussions that need to be had.
I like the discussion. The one thing I will repeat to everybody, building a high-performance culture is not easy, and it's a long journey, but you need to be consistent, and you need to apply all the principles you talked about from vision down and strategy from ground up.
Absolutely.
And ensure the right language is there, the right communications, and the right supportive mechanisms in place, and you'll get there.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.